Hey, giving our praises to Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai by Hashem HaKodash. Send up honors to our apostles and elders. Her great millstone, peace and blessings to the Lord's hopefully elect. So I'm watching this video here, and we have Andrew Tate who's going to speak. These people in this chat they're asking him his opinion on everything that's happening. And this is this proverb that's starting to come to life that's talked about in the book of Isaiah, chapter 14, which is basically going to say that the proverb that's going to be brought up against Esau Edom, the so-called white man, which includes the so-called Jewish man, is that um, being the oppressor of the earth, the hammer of the earth, that your oppression is now coming to an end. Your bully tactics are coming to an end. People aren't afraid of what it is that you have to threaten them with anymore. So this is all a fulfillment of prophecy. So I like what he said here, and I just want to show how that's in the scriptures, and that's happening as we speak, because the whole world is acknowledging that America, which is Babylon the Great, which is the whore that sitteth on the beast, spoken about in the book of Revelation 17, which the beast being NATO and the EU. This whore, the whole world is caught looking upon this place and seeing that he only knows to get his way by means of force. And the prophecy says that in the end of days, that's going to come to an end. And prior to you, before you fall, you're going to get mocked and laughed at because now your bully tactics aren't working anymore.
Here's what's interesting. When you're a bully, and when I say a bully, I don't mean that in a negative term. I mean when you're the large stack at the poker table, when you're the world's only true superpower which can project force, your answer is force. And when you're a bully and you bully everybody, that works for a certain amount of time. But once they start to check you, once people start to stand up to you and say, okay, do something, your only answer is more force. There's nothing else you can do but come along and try and be more brutal and try and crush them harder than before. And you have to look at the world and look how, it doesn't matter if you're talking about country, it doesn't matter if you're talking about gang, it doesn't matter if you're talking about cartel. Once they get into a certain level of force where people deem it unacceptable to tolerate, they no longer fear your last weapon. If you're already committing war crimes and entire populations, and people are seeing it all over the news and all over the internet now, and the matrix is broken, you can't lie to people anymore. They're going to sit here and say, well, we don't care. We're not tolerating this. And we don't care how much you beat your chest and try and be a bully. We're uninterested. America only has one answer. And like I said, the guarantee of power is that one day you're going to lose it. This is the guarantee of power in every single romantic relationship and every single geopolitical relationship. And it's lost via overuse of force. I don't know what America or Israel can really do now besides try and go harder than they've been going.
Andrew, I just got...
Right, and I'm going to let him finish. But that's all prophetic. You Edomites, you so-called white people, okay? Your tactics of just using your blessing that was given by Isaac, which is the weapon, just using that to try to put everybody in subjection under you, is only going to work for so long. That's why the scripture says that carnality with the Heavenly Father, right, is, I'm going to read it, but this is Genesis 27, verse 38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above, meaning this current kingdom. And by thy sword thou shalt live. This is all you know. And everybody knows that the Edomite, the average Edomite, the so-called white man, live and dies by that Second Amendment. There's everything to them, the gun. Okay, that blessing was given to you by Isaac. All right, it says, and by thy sword thou shalt live, and shalt serve thy brother. And it shall come to pass when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And that happened during the time of King David, where they broke free. After King David, they broke free the clutches that King David had put them in tributary. But that's the bottom line. You had your blessing by the sword that was given to you by Isaac. And if you can receive it, Isaac is the Messiah, Yahweh Shai. Verse 41, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And this is really your source for what they would say racism. Okay. Esau Edom, the reason he hates us, the reason he hates his brother Jacob is because, and pursued us with the sword, is because we got the blessing that he sold. But nevertheless, the blessing that Isaac gave him was the sword, the weapon. That's why Esau Edom is also Cain that came back in the reincarnation. And the word Cain in the Hebrew is Kwayan, which means spear, means weapon. Okay, and what did he do? He used this weapon to slay his brother Jacob simply because his works were rejected. That's the attitude of Esau Edom, the so-called white man. If I don't get my way, then I'm gonna blow up the earth. That's how it is. So just like here, okay. Oh, Jacob got the blessing. Okay, Jacob got the blessing. I sold it. You gonna give him the blessing? He got the. Okay, that's fine. I'm gonna slay him. It's the same spirit, and that's why the book of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 explains that at the end of days, this man will be revealed. This wicked man will be revealed. Esau Edom, with his chief being Amalek, which is the least of the flock, that shall draw out what the other nations to war. He's that wicked that's being revealed before the end comes, and the whole world sees it. And through the Spirit, the Holy Spirit, we understand now that this man is Esau Edom, and he was also Cain. And that's why the significance of Genesis is so important, especially chapter 3 is extremely important because it plays the end now, especially chapter 4 too. You got Cain, which is the wicked, the sword, the way he slew his brother because his works were rejected. All right, being a soul loser, that's what Esau Edom doing now. That goes back to what? Revelation chapter 12. Once the dragon saw that he was cast to the earth, then he persecuted the woman, which is Israel. That's his attitude. Oh, I'm rejected. Well, then I'm going to kill my brother, Jacob, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. That's what this is all about. And because he got that blessing of the sword, the weaponry, he's been using it to be basically the hammer of the whole earth. And that's all he done. That's all he known. And that's why he believes, well, I can steal the birthright back because I'll just use this blessing I have with the gun and we'll just take it by force. And the blessing given to the Israelites was what? Not only was it the region over there in the Middle East, again, from the Egyptian Nile River all the way to the Euphrates River, that whole region. That's what they're trying to steal now. They call it the Greater Israel Project. That's just what they're labeling it, which is them trying to steal the birthright. Go look it up. That's why that shows you that really there was never ever peace. Peace was never an option. They never wanted peace. They want that whole land over there. So they're going to start wars so that they can what? Take the land. They believe they can take it by force. So they took our heritage. They took our land. They're saying, we the people, this is our land. We're going to take it. We're going to take this whole region and we're going to take the whole earth because the kingdom of heaven is given to the Israelites. And that means eternal rulership on the planet earth. Okay. That's what they're trying to steal by force. That's what this is all about. They want complete control and they believe they could take it by force. See?
Andrew, guys, I've just got an update, Andrew. The Iranian attack, so it's from the IDF just now. The Iranian attack that has begun also includes cruise missiles and not just drones. That just came in from Channel 13.
Yeah, correct. Yep.
It's the real deal. And this is what's happened. They got themselves here by overstepping the mark. It's really interesting. People who have power over anything need to be very careful with it. You have to very softly use it. And now they're in a mess where the only thing they can do is go to Big Brother America and say, bring more force and try to scare everybody. I don't think that's even going to work. I think that public sentiment across the Middle East is so galvanized against Israel. I don't think it's going to work. And I really do believe this is like the 4-minute mile. I think this is the beginning of... I think the state of Israel is in a lot of trouble. That's my personal view.
Which is all prophetic. Like I said, I'm going to let him finish. But this is Isaiah chapter 14 as it's captioned, Israel's taunt. Okay. And this is talking about the true Israelites. The taunt that they're going to be given toward their brother in the end. Verse 4, it says, thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon and say, how hath the oppressor ceased and the golden city ceased? Babylon being America. The oppressor ceased, Esau Edom. It says, the Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger. is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They bring forth into singing. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us. And that word feller in the Hebrew means hewer. So this is the parable that's getting brought against what? These Edomites when they go down. In the end, we're going to say, oh, how have the oppressor ceased? The big bad bully is no more. He who smote the earth with a continual stroke. The whole earth is at rest. No more will you be able to pollute the land to try to set up your AI buildings. Okay, your data centers. No more does the earth have to be destroyed so that you can spread your GMO crops, to spread GMO pesticides to destroy the earth. No more will the earth be riddled with plastic. You got plastic oceans, none of that. Verse 9, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee. Even all the chief ones of the earth, it have raised up their thrones, all the kings of the nations, meaning everything's waiting for your downfall. Other nations, other countries, they know that you're at your end, and they just can't wait to see where you are no longer the superpower on the earth. Verse 10, all days shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Right? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials. The worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. And that word pomp, I believe it goes into your glory. Hebrew word ga'awan, exaltation, majesty, pride. Right? Your pride. You used to be the only one that was the superpower, but now everybody in the room has a gun. And so since you've been using that force in the Middle East, and like Andrew Tate said, all they're gonna think now is, well, we'll just use more force. And like he said, he don't think it's gonna work no more. Yeah, because the Lord is gonna put the spirit, as we read, on the other nations in the book of Joel, chapter 3. Let the weak say I am strong. Meaning, don't fear this man. Fight back. Get ready, go to war. He's gathering all the nations in the Middle East. So that means of force is no more. It's coming to an end, man. It's coming to an end.
I think the state of Israel is in a lot of trouble. That's my personal view. Andrew, just a quick question. Andrew, just a quick question. You talked, 1 second. Andrew, just a quick question. You just talked about, or gave that analogy of Israel being a big bully. What happens to Israel if they have a scenario where...
Isn't this funny? They're asking Andrew like he's a prophet, like he knows the answer. Okay, so you see how the people are looking for answers now, right? And you got our apostles and elders, as Great Millstone, have been out there doing this for over 40 years now. We're out there saying, but everybody's trying to point to somebody to give them an answer. That's funny.
They've got extreme amount of pressure. We know the way they've acted in this last 6 months has been extreme. What happens when they back is to the wall? And then, we know about the Samsung directive. Is that the huge concern? What Alex Jones and many others are concerned about, that this could make Israel do an extreme strike? Well, we can pray it doesn't come to that. We can pray it doesn't come to nuclear war. I would like to think optimistically what will happen is there'll be a meeting behind closed doors, and democracy is deliberately instigated across all of these countries so that everything can be set up and scammed amongst the populace, and they're going to just change the government over and say sorry and say it's not us anymore, everything's changed, we'll be nicer now. That's the optimistic view. If they really get under the cosh, is that the government will change. That will be instigated by power players behind. They'll say sorry, say it's not us anymore, and we'll all move on. But there is a serious problem, yes. Perhaps the government inside of Israel, or the people who are in charge, will not agree to that. And perhaps then, yes, it goes nuclear. And once a nuclear weapon is used, once again, what I said about the 4-minute mile, truthfully, at that point, I'll be looking to live on a Polynesian island for the rest of my days, because I think that'll be the beginning of which is never going to end. I think it's going to be a groundbreaking event which is going to break societal norms in nearly all ways, and nothing good can come from that, irregardless of how the event ends. Guys, would you have... I was about to...
So he said optimistically, they set up a puppet in Iran and say, all right, mission's over. He said that's being optimistic. But he said, worst case, a nuclear missile shot, and then that point, he said he basically was going to try to leave off the land because he know at that point it's over, which is true. The moment a nuclear missile is shot, it's game over. It's over. Okay, right now, what's being shot are missiles and bombs. When it becomes nuclear, that's the end of you could say the world as we know it, and that's what's written in the scriptures. The Most High did not give the knowledge of the nuclear missile to these people just so that they can be put up in glass and hanged in a museum. He gave them that knowledge and worked on their minds to bring about his agenda, his purpose, because this is his purpose. Isaiah 54 verse 16. Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and bringeth forth an instrument for his work. I have created the waster to destroy. So that's what the average smith was back then, especially the blacksmith. Today, these are your modern day scientists. The Lord created that occupation of the modern day scientist, your nuclear development scientists, all of them. He used the minds of, I believe it was Robert Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein. Well, he used him to discover the knowledge of the splitting of the atom. And then what happened was that knowledge fell into the hands of the other countries. At one point, it was just America, but then that knowledge fell into the hands of the other countries. That's what that guy, I forget his name, that devil, I believe it was in the FBI, it was the CIA, but they were interrogating people because they were like, you got Russian spies. Basically, the Lord gave that knowledge to the countries around them. So now everybody in the room has nuclear capability, which means everybody's a superpower. You understand? So he did that for a reason, so that in the end, those missiles will be used for his will, for his purpose. This is all his purpose. Zephaniah 3 and 8. Therefore, wait ye upon me, said the Lord Yahweh, until the day that I rise up to the prey. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms, to pour upon them mine indignation, even all my fierce anger. For all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. Fire. This is all his will. Isaiah 9 verse 5. For every battle of the warrior is with confused noise and garments rolled in blood, but this shall be with burning and fuel of fire. Remember, he promised that he would not destroy the earth again by water, but he's going to use what? Fire. And if you know anything about water and fire, they're both cleansing agents. Those are two cleansing agents. And he's coming to cleanse the land. This is Numbers 31. Okay. 1 second. Yeah, number 31, verse 21. And Eleazar the priest said unto the men of war which went to the battle, this is the ordinance of the law which the Lord Yahweh commanded Moses. Only the gold and the silver, the brass, the iron, the tin, and the lead, everything that may abide the fire, ye shall make it go through the fire, and it shall be clean. Nevertheless, it shall be purified with water of separation. And all that abideth not in the fire, ye shall make go through the water. So water and fire are cleansing agents. That's why in order to get the gold to the point it needs to be, it has to go through the fire to take off the impurities. That's why our walk, our transformation is like being put through the fire. It's the same. So he said that the old earth was destroyed with water. That's how he cleansed it. This one is going to be by fire. That's what the nuclear missiles are for. Zechariah 14, verse 11. 12. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord Yahweh will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouths. Now, what's able to do that? Nuclear missile, nuclear capability. Okay? So then you also have, back then, right? This guy, General Wesley Clark. He said several countries in 5 years. This is back 2007. Now everybody's is known of this clip. Everybody's known of this clip. And listen to what he says about being the hammer of the earth.
About 10 days after 9/11, I went through the Pentagon and I saw Secretary Rumsfeld and Deputy Secretary Wolfowitz. I went downstairs just to say hello to some of the people on the Joint Staff who used to work for me. And one of the generals called me and he said, "Sir, you got to come in. You got to come in and talk to me a second." I said, "Well, you're too busy." He said, "No." He says, "We've made the decision. We're going to war with Iraq." This was on or about the 20th of September. I said, "We're going to war with Iraq. Why?" He said, "I don't know." He said, "I guess they don't know what else to do." So I said, "Well, did they find some information connecting Saddam to Al-Qaeda?" He said, No. He says, "There's nothing new that way. They've just made the decision to go to war with Iraq." He said, "I guess it's like we don't know what to do about terrorists, but we've got a good military and we can take down governments." And he said, "I guess if the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem has to look like a nail." So I came back to see him a few weeks later, and by that time we were bombing in Afghanistan. I said, "Are we still going to war with Iraq?" And he said, "Oh, it's worse than that." He said, he reached over on his desk, he picked up a piece of paper, and he said, I just got this down from upstairs, meaning the Secretary of Defense's office today, and he said, "This is a memo that describes how we're going to take out 7 countries in 5 years, starting with Iraq and then Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and finishing off Iran."
You see, this is always a part of their plan. All right, there's people who have put videos together that show that Prime Minister Benjamin Satan, not a real Jew, has been trying to say that Iran was 2 weeks away from nuclear capability back in 1995. Okay. So this was all part of the plan. And what did he say? He said, "Well, we got a good military, so that's all that matters." And he said, "What? When the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem you have has to look like a nail." So what's the mentality of Esau, Edom, of Babylon? Just take everything by force. Use the gun, use that blessing that you were given. And that's his attitude. We just take everything by force. And that's how they've been conquering these countries and putting these sanctions and U.S. embassies, right, all over the world. By what? By fear of means of the sword. And they just believe that eventually every country will bow to our will, because otherwise we'll just threaten them with the gun. We'll just threaten them with the sword. But as we just read, the prophecy is that in the end, all these countries, the whole world is going to stand up to you and say, "You know what? Enough's enough." Just like Andrew Tate said, even he can see it. You can't bully the people anymore. You've knocked off too many people of Iran for them to just forget it. They're not going to forget it. Now they're going to go to war. Now you want to fight, they're going to fight. Now they're shooting back because these people, they don't have, they have the Lord put the spirit in them to say, "Look, enough's enough. We tired of you." Right? And simultaneously, there's riots targeting U.S. embassies all throughout the world in response to them killing the supreme leader. Showing you what? All these countries around the world, they all said is enough's enough. They're all rebelling. They're all fighting back. You're not going to see that in your Main Street news, though. You see? But that's the attitude of Esau Edom. He just said, "Well, then we'll just use things by means of force." And he believes that by force, he can just obtain everything that he desires. And that's why Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua can never respect a man like Esau. He can never respect a man like Cain, because all he knows is by means of the force of the sword. Which is why he said not to be carnal minded. Where is that? Yes, Romans 8 and 5. "For they that are after the flesh do mind the things of the flesh, but they that are after the spirit, the things of the spirit. For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace, because the carnal mind is enmity against Yahweh, for it is not subject to the law of Yahweh, neither indeed can it be. So that's why the Lord can never respect you Edomites, because that's all you know is means of force. You're not a diplomatic people. You're not a spiritual people. If you don't get your way, you just threaten with the weaponry. But since you've gone so long having success, now you see, right? Oh, wow, I'd never expect this kind of backlash, right? But what's his attitude? Well, then we just going to go with more force and more force. But as you can see, this proverb is starting to build up, the proverb of saying, oh, look at the big bad bully. The big bad bully is losing his power. The big bad bully no longer has fear over the people anymore. Now they're fighting back. And just like Rome fell, they fell why? As a desperate attempt to maintain their power, they did what? They committed military overreach. At the same time, they had infighting and wars within, and that allowed them to get invaded and fall, etc. This is falling in the same way. Jeremiah 50:23. It says, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? How is Babylon become the desolation among the nations? So Babylon, which is Babylon the Great, which is America, is referred to as the hammer of the whole earth. And then he just say what? That when the only tool you have is a hammer, every problem you have to have has to be a nail. So they all admit that they are the hammer of the earth. And this is why that proverb saying, how is the hammer of the whole earth cut asunder and broken? Your power, your pomp is brought low. Okay. You Edomites, you're done for, man. This place is done for, man. So I just thought that was interesting that Andrew Tate said that, because what that shows is that this proverb is starting to become it's starting to, manifest itself amongst the people. And basically the world is just saying like there's gonna be World War III, all because Esau Edom doesn't like the fact that he's no longer the superpower. So therefore World War III is gonna happen. So everybody's pointing towards the scripture, everybody's pointing towards the understanding behind it, and you Edomites are losing your power, you're losing your pump, okay, as we speak. All right. So with that, shalom.